14 months. I had my PTO approved for 14 months. My wedding was 48 hours away, and my phone buzzed at 11 p.m. with an email from my boss. PTO request denied. Report to work Saturday and Sunday, non-negotiable. What he didn't know was that HR had been quietly tracking every override he'd made for the past 2 years. I need to take you back to the beginning, because what happened didn't start that Thursday night. It started a year and a half earlier, the day I got engaged. My name's Derek. I'm 31, and at the time of this story, I was a logistics coordinator at a regional distribution company. About 200 employees, family-owned business, been there for 6 years. The kind of place where you know everyone's name, where the Christmas parties are actually fun, and where, at least I thought, management cared about their people. My direct supervisor was a guy named Glenn Mercer. Glenn had been with the company for 15 years and ran our department like his own personal kingdom. He was the type of manager who needed to control everything. Every decision, no matter how small, went through Glenn. Vacation requests, shift changes, even bathroom breaks. I'm not exaggerating. He wanted to approve everything. When my girlfriend Rachel said yes to my proposal in October of 2022, the first thing I did, the very first thing, before we even called our parents, was check my work calendar. I knew Glenn. I knew I needed to get ahead of this. The wedding was set for December 2023, 14 months away. I submitted my PTO request the following Monday for the Saturday and Sunday of the wedding, plus the following week for our honeymoon, 8 days total. I had accumulated 22 days of PTO, and I'd barely used any of it. Glenn approved it within the hour. I have the email timestamped. November 7th, 2022, 9:47 a.m. Approved. Congratulations, Derek. I printed that email. I saved it in 3 different places. Something in my gut told me to document everything with Glenn. 6 years of watching him operate had taught me that much. For the next year, I reminded him quarterly, casually, professionally. Hey Glenn, just confirming my December PTO is still good. Each time he'd wave me off. Yeah, you're fine. I sent follow-up emails after each conversation. Per our discussion today, confirming my approved PTO for December 9th through 17th remains on the books. He never responded to those emails, but he never disputed them either. Now, here's where things started to shift. In September 2023, 3 months before my wedding, our company landed a massive new contract. A national retail chain wanted us to handle their holiday distribution. It was huge, more volume than we'd ever processed. Glenn started getting pressure from above. The owners were breathing down his neck. He responded the only way he knew how, by squeezing every drop of productivity out of his team. Mandatory overtime, canceled weekends. One by one, I watched my coworkers' approved time off get revoked. My buddy Marcus had a cruise planned for Thanksgiving week, denied. Rushma in accounting had her daughter's college graduation, denied. Everyone was getting the same speech from Glenn. We're in crisis mode, all hands on deck. Take it up with ownership if you have a problem. No one took it up with ownership. People needed their jobs. But here's the thing. My PTO was different. It had been approved 14 months ago. I had documentation. And more importantly, it was my wedding, not a vacation, not a trip I could reschedule. My wedding. I went to Glenn's office on November 15th, 3.5 weeks before the ceremony. Glenn, I just want to confirm one more time. December 9th and 10th, I'm getting married. The following week is my honeymoon. This has been on the books since last November. He didn't look up from his computer. I remember. So we're good? We'll see how December shapes up. My blood ran cold. Glenn, I'm not asking if we're good. I'm confirming. The PTO was approved 14 months ago. The venue is booked. The guests are flying in. There is no we'll see. He finally looked at me, and he smiled. Not a friendly smile, the smile of a man who enjoys having power over others. Derek, I understand you think your wedding is important, but this contract is worth $4 million annually. If I need you here, you'll be here. That's how employment works. I left his office shaking. That night, I called Rachel and told it what happened. She was calm, calmer than me, and said 4 words that changed everything. Document everything now. So I did. I forwarded every approval email to my personal account. I took screenshots of the company PTO calendar showing my days marked off. I printed the employee handbook section on approved time off, which clearly stated, once PTO is approved, it may only be revoked with 30 days notice, except in cases of genuine operational emergency, subject to HR review. 30 days notice. We were inside that window. On Thursday, December 7th at 11:04 p.m., my phone buzzed. Email from Glenn Mercer. Subject line, schedule update, urgent. Derek, due to operational demands, your PTO request for December 9th, 10th has been denied. You are expected to report for your regular shift Saturday and Sunday. Failure to report will be considered voluntary abandonment of position. Additional PTO days under review. G. Mercer. My wedding was Saturday. I stared at my phone for a full minute. Rachel was asleep next to me. Our apartment was full of boxes, wedding gifts, honeymoon luggage, the suit I was supposed to wear in 48 hours. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table until 3 a.m., reading the employee handbook over and over, reading the labor laws for our state, composing emails I didn't send, deleting them, starting over. At 6 a.m., I made a decision. I called HR. The head of HR was a woman named Patricia Okonkwo. She'd been with the company for 8 years, and unlike Glenn, she actually seemed to care about doing things by the book. I'd never had much interaction with her, but I'd heard she was fair. Derek, she said when she answered, it's 6 in the morning. This must be serious. I told her everything. The 14-month approval, the documented reminders, the handbook policy, the email I'd received less than 7 hours ago. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something that made my heart stop. Derek, I need you to come in this morning. There's something you should see.
Okay, I need to pause here because at this moment, I genuinely had no idea what Patricia was about to show me. I thought maybe she'd tell me there was nothing she could do. I thought maybe I was about to lose my job 2 days before walking down the aisle. Subscribe if you think Glenn had finally pushed too far. Drop a comment and tell me, what would you have done in my position? Would you have shown up to work or risked everything? Because what Patricia showed me that morning, I still can't believe Glenn thought he'd get away with it.
I drove to the office at 7:30 a.m., still in the clothes I'd been wearing the night before. Patricia met me in the lobby and took me to a small conference room I'd never been in. It was clearly used for HR investigations. No windows, a single table, 2 chairs. On the table was a laptop and a stock of papers about 3 inches thick. Derek, sit down, Patricia said. Her voice was steady, but I could see something in her eyes. Anger, maybe, or disgust. I've been building a case on Glenn Mercer for 7 months. What happened to you last night just became the final piece. She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a spreadsheet, rows and rows of data, employee names, PTO request dates, approval dates, and then a third column, override dates. Every time a manager approves or denies PTO in our system, it's logged. Every time they change a decision, that's logged too. What you're looking at is Glenn's override history for the past 26 months. I scrolled down. There were over 60 entries. Glenn's been doing this systematically, approving PTO requests sometimes months in advance and then revoking them inside the 30-day window. He waits until employees have made non-refundable plans, booked flights, paid deposits, then he pulls the approval, usually by email, usually late at night. Why? I asked. What's the point? Patricia's jaw tightened. Control, power. Glenn doesn't actually need the coverage in most of these overrides. We pulled the operational data. In 43 of these 62 overrides, the shifts were adequately staffed. He's not solving a problem. He's reminding people who's in charge. She slid the stock of papers toward me. These are complaints, internal complaints, exit interview statements, even 2 letters from former employees' attorneys, all regarding Glenn's PTO practices. Some of these go back 5 years. Derek, I've been trying to get ownership to act on this for months, but Glenn's numbers are good. He hits his targets. They didn't want to hear it. So what changed? I asked. Patricia smiled grimly. 2 things. First, the labor board opened an inquiry last month. One of the employees Glenn burned, Marcus actually, filed a formal complaint. Second, your case. You have 14 months of documentation. You have an approved request well outside the 30-day window. You have a life event that can't be rescheduled, and Glenn put it in writing last night that he was denying it anyway. She leaned forward. Derek, you're getting married on Saturday. Go home, be with your fiancé, let me handle Glenn. I drove home in a daze. I told Rachel what Patricia had shown me. We held each other and cried. Relief, exhaustion, lingering fear that something would still go wrong. Friday was a blur. The rehearsal dinner, family arriving, phone calls, and last-minute details. My phone was on silent. I didn't check my work email once. Saturday, December 9th was the most beautiful day of my life. Rachel walked down the aisle in her grandmother's veil, and I forgot about Glenn Mercer, about spreadsheets and override logs, about everything except the woman I was promising to spend my life with. We danced until midnight. We drove to a hotel near the airport. Sunday morning, we flew to Costa Rica. For 8 days, I didn't think about work. When I turned my phone back on in the airport on December 18th, I had 47 emails. Most were congratulations from coworkers. A few were from friends, but 3 were from Patricia Okonkwo. The first sent December 11th. Derek, the situation has been resolved. Enjoy your honeymoon. The second sent December 14th. When you return, please come see me. Good news. The third sent December 17th. Glenn Mercer is no longer with the company. I walked into Patricia's office on December 19th, jet-lagged and tan and still wearing my wedding ring like it was new, because it was. She told me what happened. The Monday after my wedding, Patricia presented her 7-month investigation to the company's ownership, the spreadsheet, the complaints, the labor board inquiry, and the email Glenn had sent me, revoking 14-month-old approved PTO for a wedding less than 48 hours before the ceremony. The owners were horrified, not because they suddenly grew a conscience, Patricia admitted, but because the legal exposure was catastrophic. If even half of Glenn's targets sued for damages, lost deposits, canceled trips, emotional distress, the company was looking at 6 figures in liability, minimum. Glenn was terminated that Wednesday, no severance. They cited the handbook policy he'd been violating for years and told him to be grateful they weren't pursuing action against him personally. 3 other employees whose PTO had been revoked in the past 6 months were given paid leave to reschedule their trips. The company's attorneys reached out to Marcus and 2 other former employees who'd filed complaints offering settlements. And me? Patricia told me the company was crediting me an additional week of PTO as an apology. She also said something I'll never forget. Derek, you did what most people are too scared to do. You documented, you escalated, you didn't just accept it. Because of you, 62 people finally have proof of what happened to them. Some of them left this company thinking no one believed them. Now they know the truth. I ran into Marcus 2 weeks later. He'd gotten a settlement. He wouldn't tell me how much, but he said it more than covered his missed cruise. He shook my hand and said, "You got him, man. You actually got him." I didn't get him. Patricia got him. The 62 people who complained got him. The system, for once, actually worked. But I'll tell you this, I still have that original approval email from November 2022. It's framed now, hanging in my home office. Rachel thinks I'm being dramatic. Maybe I am. But every time I look at it, I remember what it felt like to be told that my wedding didn't matter, and what it felt like to prove that it did.
Thank you so much for sticking with me through this story. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Please hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It really does help more than you know. And if you've got your own story about a terrible boss, revoked PTO, or workplace injustice, I want to hear it. Email your story for a chance to be featured in an upcoming video. Until next time, take care of yourselves and document everything.